I'm Katie Miller, and I am part of the steering committee with the Rocky Mountain Food Collaborative. And today, along with a few others who are part of this collaborative, are going to be presenting about the collaborative. And basically, our discussion is about creating a producer-owned, vertically integrated regional supply chain and direct-to-consumer markets. And you'll have to bear with me because I'm working off of two different screens. So Rocky Mountain Food Collaborative is a network of beginning and established farmers and ranchers and food system supporters. We recognize the need for producers to collectively develop and control a regional and vertically integrated supply chain. And we intend to open a producer-owned cooperative local foods grocery store with a cut facility, butcher counter, and restaurant. This project is currently funded by the Gates Family Foundation through a cooperative development center at Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. So imagine a future in which producers are able to spend adequate time working on their land to build healthy ecosystems while still receiving a price for their product that accurately reflects the true cost of production. Producers shift their energy and passion back to the land while collaboratively hiring specialists to manage the marketing, advertising, distribution, and selling transactions. A future in which food grown within our region is an environmentally and socially conscious way is the standard versus the exception. Consumers recognize the importance of prioritizing how and where they spend their money, and this is reflected in increased demand for local products. Collectively, urban and rural communities support each other through a vertically integrated regional economic system, which capitalizes on the multiplier effect of buying local. The outcome is a robust and secure food system built on personal and professional relationships based on mutual respect for others and our planet. Our mission is the Rocky Mountain Food Collaborative will develop and operate grocery stores with butcher counters, cut facilities, and restaurants, cooperatively owned by producers that are connected to a regional supply and distribution network. Our new market avenue will support a revolutionary regional food system using the marketplace as a foundation by which to incentivize environmental and social stewardship. We will redefine family farming and ranching across the Rocky Mountain region as a financially viable occupation, foster the growth of beginning food system entrepreneurs, increase local food access to diverse demographics, and reconnect urban and rural communities through a revitalized connection to the food we eat. Some of the values that we hold span across those three topics, including profit, people, and planet. You'll find throughout this webinar that we have used these icons to kind of depict our values and different concepts related to those three topics. It's not to say that that is not fully inclusive. Some of these things may include all three of those concepts. So some of our values are a fair price for producers built upon a financially viable retail and wholesale model controlled by producers, strengthening agricultural communities, regenerative agriculture and sustainable operations, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and revitalizing consumers' understanding of our food system. I am going to show a clip that was done by Rocky Mountain PBS.
But once you've tasted a locally grown or locally raised product, like, you can definitely tell the difference. So we are kind of a hybrid or a mix of a farm and a ranch. We raise Texas Longhorn cattle. We have raised pigs and sheep in the past. We have Nigerian dwarf goats for dairy, for milk. And then we have poultry of all sorts, ducks, chickens, geese, turkeys, and a peahen. We try and regeneratively and sustainably manage our livestock in order to benefit our land primarily.
So we're after more than just, raising great livestock and tasty food and that kind of stuff. We want a healthy community, right? From the soil all the way to the people that consume the product.
I am the owner-operator, along with my husband, of our farm, Heritage Bell Farms, in Calhan, Colorado, just east of Colorado Springs, Colorado. In the very beginning of COVID, I started a virtual farmers market, and so I've really gotten to be able to see what the challenges are for both myself and all my fellow farmers and ranchers as far as getting local food into the community and into the hands of local consumers. And the biggest issue that I see is that there's a lot of responsibility and weight on the farmers and the ranchers to do everything from growing and raising the crops and the livestock to transporting it to the centers to actually having to do farmers markets and try and market your products. So having an outlet that would allow us to kind of alleviate some of those demands helps us to focus on the things that we're really good at, like raising the crops and the livestock.
I would say that the Rocky Mountain Food Collaborative has been evolving over time, and we're still continuing. We intend to be set up as a for-profit cooperative with farmers, ranchers, and employees that work within the collaborative and the stores. And the project started, I would say, about 2.5 years ago, if not more, just with loose conversations from different folks. If we can bring small to medium-sized producers together, they're going to have a collective voice that can actually start to make change. We tend to focus on sort of the big industrial voices, and this gives small to medium-sized producers an opportunity to join together, have a stronger voice, and hopefully influence the way we look at markets, the way we look at policy, the way we work within our communities.
I'm owner, operator, and manager of Raptor W Ranch in Simla, Colorado. We are a multi-species operation, and that includes cattle, sheep, and chickens for both meat and eggs. And we are deeply invested in regenerative practice. If it's in your budget to do it, it makes more financial sense to order it in bulk if you have a big freezer or something like that, because then you're not paying on select cuts across the year. And that's part of the education. What makes more fiscal sense for your budget? So in Colorado, when does it grow? When is it harvested? If it's berries, when are they here, right? If it's peaches from Palisade, August to early September, and that's the time slot.
And so in order to make this project financially viable so that farmers and ranchers earn what they need, we decided that we needed to have it in an area that there was enough wealth that they would be able to come in and financially support it. And then at the same time, we didn't want it to be in an area that was the focus. Instead, we wanted to say, well, now that we have a location that can provide some of that, we want to be in a food desert. We wanted to be in an area where retail grocery stores are not willing to go, and we know there's the need and the desire and just the want for these healthy local foods and the ability to create this community endeavor too. So we're bridging the farmers and the ranchers with the employees that hopefully live in the neighborhood and work at the store. And so once again, just creating this bridge between rural and urban, knowing that the urban can help support the rural and vice versa. We're in Northeast Park Hill in the Northeast Holly Square, and there's a lot of history here, far more than I know or should speak about.
You cannot visit or live in this neighborhood and not know what's going on and what's not here. So I watched this whole Holly complex be built, you know, listening to neighbors and friends talk about needing somewhere to purchase food. I'm Alicia Boyd. I'm the Special Strategic Advisor to the Northeast Collaborative team. And so I met this group through my son, Terrence Boyd. He started ranching the first part of the year. I've been attending King Baptist Church for 39 years. So being in this community, my daughter worked at the rec center across the street, just watching it change and through gentrification.
Our idea is that we could have a neighborhood public market that we can just kind of help start, and then it could be owned by the community and provide economic opportunities, provide access to local food, and really just start to be a source of pride for the community. And with that, we then would like to have our cooperative-owned grocery store, cut facility, butcher counter, and sandwich deli located next to it.
You have to ask yourself, are you bringing value to this neighborhood, or are you just bringing your vision to this neighborhood? We can go anywhere to start this market, but this is a special neighborhood that we care about and have passion for.
We have a neighbor in Colorado terms south of us who has a substantial, greenhouse vegetable operation. And people found them, right? And not only did they get it local, but they got it at a higher quality, right? It hadn't been in a truck, and those kinds of things hadn't been picked before it was ready. And I can have a relationship with the person that's raising it. And that helps us connect. For us, that's been tremendous. I mean, we've met some people we would have never otherwise met. And some of them we've developed relationships. Some have come to visit the ranch with their kids.
And this neighborhood is not prepared for anything if it's shut down. And so it scares me and to think that if the roads were blocked, where would they go for food?
I hope that this collaborative project is a mechanism to continue to build that community, right? And to build the healthy relationships that will build the things that come out of it.
So just a quote from Nelson Mandela: "It always seems impossible until it's done." And I think that kind of sums up the collaborative really well, and what we're working to achieve. I'm going to pass this off to Margaret, who is the founder of the collaborative, to discuss some of the problems that we have identified.
Thanks, Katie. So yes, I'm Margaret. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a founder as much as the project manager, because we just have, as the doorbell rings, we have a great group of people that have been building this project from the beginning. So a lot of the questions started when my husband and I owned a organic peach orchard in Hotchkiss and tried to attempt to make it, understanding that I grew up in a long line of farmers and ranchers and was told by my dad continually, do not farm and ranch. It'll kill you and you'll never make a living. And I just still kind of kept going. And there was so many problems that emerged, and just really a better understanding of the current situation. And so this systems map was developed after a lot of conversation with producers in our region. And you can see that a lot of the large bubbles that we came up with were marketplace access. So where is a convenient, easy, supportive way to sell products direct to consumer at the volume that's needed to really shift our systems so that we can start to build something regional. And there's also this huge feeling of scarcity. And I remember feeling it, the idea that I needed to market, I needed to find a better place to sell my peaches. I needed to transport the peaches. I needed to do everything on my own, because if not, there wasn't a way for me to actually pay my bills at the end of the season. And so trying to figure out how can we work with that? How can we try to be providing solutions, knowing that climate change and its impacts are only coming closer and harder to us? And how do we look at this rural urban divide that's intensified over the last years? And then addition, how do we look at making sure that everyone has access to food versus just a select few? And so this is really where we went to the point of identifying our problems, had a lot of conversations about what they are. And I know that all of you on the phone know them. And then we moved into our solution. So next slide, Katie. So when we got through all of the discussions about what was the problem, we also talked about what have people tried to provide as solutions, what has worked, what hasn't. And the number one thing that emerged was we have to find a way for producers to control the entire supply chain. They might not need to own it, but there has to be a way where they're in control of from farm to ranch gate direct to consumer. And so from that, we started looking at what direct to consumer models have worked and how would we need to tweak them. And then we moved on to the people piece. As Lance was talking about, how can we build a community? How can we restore the communities we have in the agricultural world? And then also the communities that we have in our urban centers. How can we build something in a way that it's convenient, knowing people have such limited time? How can we appeal to all demographics? So it's not a niche product. Instead, this is what we all should be purchasing and eating. And then we realized, okay, well, this is great and idealistic and we love it, but hyperlocal might not be the only thing that gets us to our solution. And so we expanded to the idea that we needed to look at regional. And so how can we look at our region so that we can start to extend the season, we can move more products, we can work on resilience and supply and demand. And then also, once again, to just share amongst producers so that we're able to do this resource sharing. Perhaps it even ends up, working on how can we share land? Is there a way to have things set up so we have different grazing opportunities throughout the season? How do we look at year round? There's so many, I guess, basically opportunities embedded when we start to work as a region. Okay, next slide. And then, yeah, this goes back to why is it needed? So in addition to the idea or the understanding that we really need to find a way to make it financially viable for small to medium-sized producers, we all experienced COVID and understand how fragile our international food system is. And so we need to be planning for the future, understanding that we've got climate change, we have loss of biodiversity, we have loss of soil, we have so many struggles that we're against. We have urban pressures pushing on rural. We have the desire for water. Everyone seems to need water, and we're having more and more drought. So we also looked at trying to figure out a way to take all of these pressures and turn them into opportunities for rural and urban communities to work together, instead of them being sort of the source of conflict with diversity and adversity, and understanding that we're all reliant upon each other. So urban communities are very much in need of food on a daily basis, as well as the stories, as well as those that work and cultivate our land. And rural, we're having less and less people living in our rural areas and less job opportunities. So how could we start to make this project in a way that we could build economic opportunities, small food entrepreneurs in rural areas, and then ideally really provide a source of income that really helps farmers and ranchers do the work they want to on their land and support their families. So I think that's my next slide, and I'm turning it back to you, right, Katie?
So our solution is to control the supply chain, reinvent the old school farm ranch market model with a producer owned grocery store, butcher counter, cut facility, and restaurant or deli or cafe or some kind of restaurant component to it. Community engagement. Ideally, the collaborative could be housed within a neighborhood public market or our own independent building as well. In cities without support, the collaborative will strive to support economic prosperity and food access within the collaborative owned elements. And then, of course, offering this year round as a producer owned market, regional and regeneratively owned produce and meat, value added products and dry goods with a butcher counter and cut facility. Our new market channel will accomplish several things, but here are a couple that we've come up with. It'll provide producers with a new year-round direct-to-consumer mechanism and support with sales and distribution. We'll move products with the volume and ease of wholesale while retaining the higher prices that small direct-to-consumer models provide. We'll build strong vertically integrated supply chain to enable a resilient local agricultural economy which connects urban and rural communities, and will foster resource sharing, technical assistance, political presence, and a decrease in workload amongst and for producers in a mutually beneficial way. What will sell? Fresh vegetables and fruit when in season, greenhouses and cold stored fruits and vegetables during the off season. We've also discussed value added products such as dehydrated or frozen, maybe even made into meals, soups, things of that nature, where we can utilize produce at its peak and transfer it to a way that we can use it and enjoy it during its off season. We'll have a full service butcher counter with regionally raised meats, milk, eggs, cheese, and other dairy products as they're available regionally, local bulk dry goods such as grains, nuts, pasta, flours, and legumes, wellness and cleaning supplies, regional wine and spirits, and additional non-local products such as sugar, lemons, olive oil, and culturally relevant products to go along with all of the other things that we're offering. We aspire for a cut facility and butcher counter. A USDA wholesale cut facility is a key component of our concept and will serve to increase volume and increase carcass utilization. This cut facility will receive quarters or halves of animals previously slaughtered near the location they were raised. Coordination amongst collaborative producer members is key to establishing a year-round pastured, 100% grass-fed supply chain. Livestock and poultry production must adhere to the collaborative standards for each animal. And the butcher counter will include marinated meats, charcuterie options, and specialty cuts, as well as allow retail and wholesale customers to special order specific cuts. Collaborative wholesale one-stop shop. Potential for wholesale markets include institutions, restaurants, caterers, commissary kitchens, food assistant programs, member-owned grocery cooperatives, and pop-up markets. We'll provide these wholesale markets with a one-stop shop for all their local and regeneratively grown products, increasing the ease at which buyers can purchase these products and ideally increase profit margins for producers. We aim to build economic prosperity through a stable, consistent marketplace that'll support new and existing food entrepreneurs from both rural and urban communities. Where space is available or in a public market scenario, the collaborative will support economic opportunities for underserved and or marginalized communities. And we intend to offer excellent salaries, benefits, and career advancement and assistant opportunities for all collaborative employees. We seek to offer community engagement and education. There's a great opportunity for dialogue between consumers and producers to increase access to healthy food and bridge the rural-urban divide. The collaborative will serve as a living educational tool in which authentic farming and ranching stories are shared with a focus on highlighting climate change and drought to urbanization to pressures from an economic system designed for industrial commodity-based agriculture production. We understand and appreciate that food is integral for all cultures, and this marketplace should be tailored to appeal to all cultures surrounding the market. This topic we've talked a lot about, like as we're going into these neighborhoods with a market, we want to be really conscious of the different cultures that already live there and try and really cater to them. So we realize there may be special requests, there may be difficult to obtain types and cuts of meat that we really like to be able to offer these different communities so that they're able to continue their cultural relationship with food. We also are going to have a special emphasis on children and youth by providing spaces for them to learn, play, and meet members of their community while their parents or elders are shopping or eating, and also to go along with the whole family idea, just being a educational hub to be able to share recipes, how to utilize food, to bring new foods to people who may not have ever had certain things. Again, just really being engaging within our community and educating about the importance of local food and regenerative food. Providing neighborhood economic and nutritional opportunities. We recognize the cost of production for regional regenerative food is higher, and we intend to develop a system that is financially self-sustaining. At the same time, we are striving to serve a diverse demographics that will be establishing discount programs such as Double Up, Food Bucks, SNAP, EBT, and WIC. We intend to empower customers with the knowledge their spending decisions can make a huge change on our planet and communities. And with all these things happening, we have an overwhelmingly high concern about the environment and how we are contributing to our carbon footprint with this market. We've got a lot of values and goals for it, including net zero energy, energy conservation measures, passive strategies, behavior, and on-site renewable energy generation, water conservation and repurpose. To the extent possible, all gray water will be repurposed. Sustainable materials will be sustainably sourced and adhere to the Living Building Challenges red list of prohibited materials, and zero waste operations. Systems will be put in place for both operators and customers by having a central place from which the collaborative can operate. Vegetables and fruit can be packed in reusable totes. A butcher counter eliminates plastic. Pre-packaging for meats, and dry goods and dairy products can be packaged in reusable containers with a deposit system in place. And as we are developing this collaborative, we've decided that it would be good to have a set of commitments for the development of it. And these include things like listening to feedback from our producers and our customers, thoughtful development and revision of who the collaborative serves and how, certification and verification processes that support our values and vision while incentivize producers to transition management practices to more regenerative practices, a profitable business model that provides premiums of value to producers who are good land and animal stewards, effective technology and distribution to increase consistency, quality, and efficiencies across our short value chains, profitable direct-to-consumer and wholesale markets that prioritize our values, effective decision-making process that allows the collaborative to engage membership while remaining nimble in changing markets and market conditions, and effective programming and curriculum to support the capacity building of our member base. So kind of like finalizing some things up, we realize and appreciate the importance of purchasing hyperlocal product, yet understand our limitations from seasonality, lack of zoning and planning foresight, and loss of land and water to rapid urbanization. Therefore, we recognize the critical need for a regional system to extend our seasons and increase volume through coordinated purchasing, distribution, and transportation. Have you heard enough? It's time to stop ruminating and join our movement. We welcome you to join our collaborative. If there are any questions or comments, we're happy to field that now since we have quite a bit of time left.
I could maybe get the ball rolling. I'm curious. So I live in Oregon, and what's the best way to support like either this movement or this kind of movement in a place where you guys aren't?
What we've been trying to do, even though we're focused on the Rocky Mountain region, is really how can we keep track of all of our conversations, our movement, business plan, decisions that are made so that we could just really pass that over to any other region that's interested in trying to model something. What's been really interesting when we've been along this process is just every region is different. So the challenges that we have here are really starkly different in many ways from the Pacific Northwest. And so in some ways you all have it a little bit easier, I would say. And so, yeah, but I think that there's going to be a lot of lessons learned because we're continually learning. And our hope is to really just be able to provide that so that any other region could pick up what we've been doing and modify it for themselves.
Cool. I see a couple questions here. One is, what does producer membership look like?
Yeah. Lance, do you want to talk about that or do you want me to take that one?
No, I can speak to that. In short, I think it's adherence to an established set of values and criteria and the standards that are accepted. So, and presently, if you are raising livestock, cattle, sheep, and chicken, mostly cattle and sheep or bison, that's going to be something associated with the American Grass-Fed Association or the Audubon's Conservation Ranching Program certification. I will tell you that Dusty Downey from Audubon is part of the steering committee for this collaborative, and as a result of that, has actually offered to reduce the acreage mins and also streamline the formation of protocol or habitat management plans that will allow people to achieve certification. And it opens a door, I think, for people to get into the program without spending an ungodly amount of money to do it, which you can in some respects. And so I think we can get there. And I think it's going to be easier than we might think if you're a producer, because the certifying agencies or groups are actually on board and willing to help the process. So, yeah, I mean, I don't, and to be fair, we carry both of those certifications. And it felt daunting when we first walked down the road, and as we got through it and got to the end, we were like, hey, look, they were actually here to help us, right, and help us to get to where we needed to be. And I think it's just inviting the question, and asking them for their assistance to get there.
Yeah, and I would build off of what Lance has been saying too, that so what we're trying to do is walk that good line where we can show that we have environmental standards to the consumer, but how do we make it so it's not onerous for producers? How can we support them? And so each step of the way, we've been looking at what support systems could we provide to our producer members, anywhere from helping with technical assistance so that we could apply to group grants. Right now, there's a lot of energy efficiency grants that many of our small, medium-sized producers don't qualify for, but if we clump them together, we're going to be more competitive. There's the idea too, could we offer some retirement benefits? Basically, what can we do to support producers in the attempt to really increase the viability of their livelihood, and then help with the marketing and the sales and the invoicing and collective transportation and distribution. Katie, do you want to add anything to that?
There was a little bit of a clarifier here about what are the costs associated for producers wanting to participate.
Yeah, right now we have a $275 initial fee to join, and then we have a second stock option, basically. So when you look at a for-profit cooperative, we have the membership categories for farmers and ranchers, and we detail what they need to do to qualify. And then we have two options. We didn't want it to be so cost prohibitive that some beginning producers and smaller weren't able to join, but we also know that it's a substantial undertaking what we're trying to do. So we have a second class option, stock option, for any producers that are interested and willing to do more than that 275. And we're working on figuring out what the percent returns would be, to differentiate those folks.
Did you something else you're going to add, Katie, or is that?
No.
Okay. We've got quite a few questions here. Let me figure out what the next one is. What is the timeline for achieving the collaborative goals?
Let's see, could we be done yesterday? But who knows how many years more it's going to take us? Is that a good response? We had originally hoped maybe we'd be open in fall of 2023. I don't know. I keep striving and hoping, but there's the location. We need to really figure out the three components of the business plan. So we still have work to do, but that being said, we've done a lot of work to get to where we're at. So I know that's vague.
The next question is similar. Where are you now in terms of creating your vision, and what have been the biggest hurdles?
Okay, well, I'll give my thoughts and then definitely turn it over to Katie and Lance if they have things to add, and then Tom as well, because Tom is helping us work on the retail grocery store pro forma and business plan. And I would say that there's kind of hurdles in each category. So Tom's done a great job of dividing them into, we've got this grocery store with the butcher counter, and then we've got this USDA wholesale and retail cut facility, and then we have a restaurant component. And so each of those we're basically trying to redefine where profit goes in each one of those categories, which we know is not easy. And in addition to that, we're trying to really up the regional amount of food that's sold in the grocery store. So if you look at a standard consumer cooperative or grocery stores that try their best, most of them are anywhere from 20 to 30% local. And what we're trying to say is, can we push that number so that maybe 30% or 40% is non-local and the rest is regional? And so that in itself has been a pretty big undertaking, looking at the margins that we're trying to work with, understanding we want to sell environmentally conscious products, but at the same time, we want to make sure that they're affordable. That's another struggle. Looking at the cup facility, we're trying to really bring back in many ways what used to be common, which isn't necessarily the case anymore. So the idea of actually having artisan butchery located near or close to where it's actually being sold, and then having the slaughter happen more closely related to where the product is raised. So those are just a few. Interestingly too, there's so many amazing projects happening, but when we started to get into the details, none of them were actually combining these three ideas. And so we've kind of had to build it from scratch. And then the other really difficult thing is just what we're up against here in the Rocky Mountain region, whether it be erratic weather, long distances, high passes, drought, we're up against a lot of weather conditions as well. Anybody else want to add more from the team?
I think the grocery store is not going to be that hard to put together. I'm a little concerned about what the retails are going to have to be to support to support all the features of this project moving back to the ranchers and farmers. I think that what's happened in Colorado, and I've only been in Colorado a couple of years, but my research has shown that there's been so much consolidation in the meat business and in the retail supermarket business that the infrastructure is not there to do this easily. We have to create a lot of the infrastructure ourselves. And then also one of the biggest challenges is having this three-legged stool all manifest at the same time, because we sort of need different components of the cut facility to support what the ranchers are doing. And then in order to have a consistent supply of protein in the store, that cut facility is going to have to function year round. But it's all coming together. We're just kind of putting pieces together as we go, and tackling challenges as they come up.
I'll weigh in. I think one of the biggest hurdles too is just finances and having the ability to get going. I mean, we're talking about working with primarily small to mid-sized farms and ranches, and even though this is something we all want to happen, we can't really dedicate a whole lot of or invest a whole lot of our own money into this. And so just helping the collaborative try and write grants, try and find angel funders, just being really creative with ways to obtain finances for this has been a big hurdle and a big challenge for us. And it seems like with every setback or disappointment, we continue to move forward though. So that's been really encouraging that, just because we have a challenge or a limitation or a hurdle, it's not stopping us from continuing this vision.
Should I go on to a next question? Everybody responded. What is the level of inspection required for meat USDA Colorado State inspection? ? Custom exempt, on-farm processed.
So it's different for each of the meat proteins that we're looking at. But overall, we need to have a USDA certified cut facility in order to sell wholesale. And in order to make the cut facility work and to increase the volume, we need the wholesale. And so we're working on how we move forward with that. We just actually have been started working with Flower Hill Institute, and so we're really grateful for their help. Tom and I went and toured Skanga Meats in Salida, Colorado here yesterday. And so looking at that, as far as poultry, we are able to use the state exempt processing facilities. And that's what we'll be looking at when it comes to poultry, which will be viewed differently. Yeah, so there's going to be a need for kind of to be a little nimble depending upon what the state allows, but we're also needing to have, basically we'll be collaborating with slaughter facilities to do the kill and chill and then head them our direction.
One more here. What types of food products do you foresee sourcing from outside Colorado?
So this is a really good question, and it's been, we don't have any final decisions, but what we're leaning towards is the idea that we need to be relatively close to a full-scale grocery store. But at the same time, I'll give a good example. Do we really need to sell kiwis? Which is going to make Tom smile. But where are we able to reach? So we know that most everybody buys citrus, right? So we don't grow citrus here. Is there a way that instead of contracting with a broadline distributor, could we actually go straight to some citrus groves in California and be working with them? What about olive oil? There's also going to be points too that, and I'm learning too about what the trade-offs are. So knowing that this project might not be perfect when we start, but what do we need to do so that we can get consumers to the table with the idea of knowing what our goals and our values are. So maybe we do end up selling Nutella because that's what consumers really want. Or maybe not. We know people want coffee. We know people are used to having what used to be luxury goods are now considered staples. And so I guess that's a long way of answering. We will definitely be sourcing from outside of, and once again, our region is too, we're working with Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, Nebraska, and Utah. And the idea that we're not using our state boundaries. We're starting sort of in the center here with Colorado, just kind of because that's where we all live for the most part. Dusty is actually in Northeast Wyoming. And then we've spoken with a number of producers in our outlying states. So yeah.
Can I add on to that? I think that we're going to do as much as we can. You know, if we can find something that's produced locally or regionally, we're going to carry that. We're going to promote it. We're going to tell the stories about it. And then when we can't do that, we'll probably fill in with items from outside the area with the long-term goal of fostering. I mean, we're never going to grow coffee here in Colorado, but there are things that may have been produced in the past that economically with the, you know, our modern supply chains or whatever have moved out of Colorado that we can encourage to come back, or somebody that's just offering right now maybe a very small custom sort of product, help them to grow into a way that they can really participate with this cooperative, and we can sell their products as well.
Another thing that we think is really exciting about it is the idea that producers are going to have an opportunity to really directly hear from the consumer what it is they would like to purchase, what price we're actually going to be able to sell it for, and what quantity we anticipate there'll be a demand. So it's really going to be a lot more helpful when it comes to farm planning. And there's also an exciting opportunity, particularly here in Denver and in our more urban areas, with the immigrant community. So right now there's a lot of food that's being shipped in the state or grown in community gardens that we can grow here that producers just aren't used to growing. And so what sort of price point and market can we look at for culturally relevant food to just kind of start growing some things that we can, but might not know where to sell them at.
Any more questions from anybody? Those are some good ones.
Since we have extra time, do you think the participants would be willing to kind of just share their story about how they market or what their success and hurdles have been and kind of where they're from? Could we do something like that?
Yeah, of course. Anybody want to share?
Well, I guess we could ask if there's any more questions, or Lynn, do you have anything else you'd like us to talk about?
No, I think that was great. I learned so much. I really appreciate all the information.
I have a real cheeky question. How many of the people that are watching this would want to buy kiwis in the store?
Kiwis in January, sure.
Well, that goes to your point, Margaret.
Yep.
I, for one, don't ever buy kiwis. I don't know if that's helpful.
Because they don't taste good when we get them, and yet they're always there. They were at the store when I went this morning.
When you get old, they get gross.
Yep, they don't quite ripen the way they're supposed to.
I'll put my contact information in the chat. So I work with the statewide local food hub in Wyoming. So as you all get closer to wanting to aggregate and distribute locally grown food products out of Wyoming, definitely contact us.
That sounds great. Does anybody, I guess, have comments on how you think we could improve what we're working on, or anything you think that we're missing? Any criticism?
Something that just occurred to me to wonder about was seasonality and how that would be harder to manage and figure out in terms of having a mostly local store.
Yes, and that's why we've come to the thought that, when we don't have carrots in season, we're going to have to stock carrots. So how can we try to make sure that they're at least up to our environmental standard, and maybe figure out how we could work with producers in a different way that aren't here in the region? There's a lot of questions, and that's, one of the most difficulties. And that's why I was saying the Pacific Northwest, in some ways, it's a lot easier to do that year round. And so there's a lot more grow houses that are trying to start up here. By extending down into New Mexico and into Kansas, we're going to be able to shift some of like fruit, and when that happens. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle, and that's where we're coming to the point where we need to make sure that people are shopping year round in our store, just not coming for 4 or 5 months. So we're working on how to make that as equitable, how to still be part of our standards, and then how to really help those producers as well still make a living.
Mm-hmm.